Have you ever read The Secrets of Nimh or Redwall? Or are you someone who's simply interested in a really cool fantasy story told out in graphic novel format? Well, do I have a cool comic series for you. It's called Mouse Guard, and today we're going to be reviewing Fall 1152 in this video. So suit up, put your armor on, and grab a cup of tea, and let's get going. Mouse Guard is a graphic comic series written by David Peterson, and you can tell that I'm a huge fan of Mouse Guard because I have so many of the books out here on my bookshelf. I want to say that when I first discovered Mouse Guard, it was introduced to me by a really good friend, and I have absolutely loved it ever since. It's evoked some really great senses of nostalgia when I read Redwall and The Secret of Nimh as a younger teenager, but I also just love the themes that really are evoked in Mouse Guard. So today I'm going to be reviewing the book. I'm going to try and avoid as many spoilers as I can, but I apologize in advance if I do touch on a few spoilers. But what I can say is that this book is a great journey. It is also a great introductory book into the world of Mouse Guard. And there are two really great things I like about this book. First of all, it's all about how David Peterson has established this world. It's set in the mouse territories, there's been this weasel war, and now the Mouse Guard are facing a new threat. And the threat actually comes from within the Mouse Guard itself and really tests their values, their integrity, their honesty, as well as their camaraderie between each other as the same species. So that is something that's really well explored in this first book. The other thing that I really like is the fact that there's this lore that's established in the background of where these mice have come from, why they're actually a guard and why they're protecting their world. There's that beautiful sense of crafting a cool world that really immerses you in as you dabble through the different pages of the book. So what is the first book, Fall 1152, about? Well, it centers around three mouse patrol guards, Kenzie, Saxon, and Liam, and they all have their own little funny, distinct personalities. Liam's kind of finding his place, Kenzie's really intelligent, Saxon's very brazen and often goes out there and risks his life and is really courageous. And they're all under the guise of this other mouse called Gwendolyn, who you kind of discover is kind of the leader of the Mouse Guard, and she kind of advises them what they should do to try and stay protected and to protect what they already have preserved from the end of what was known as the Weasel War. The nights are so cold, and all I have is this grain to eat. The Weasel War took everything from us. Now, what they do discover in this book is that there's a traitor in the midst, one of their own who is trying to rebel against Gwendolyn and the other Mouse Guard and trying to fracture this beautiful sense of integrity and honesty that this Mouse Guard have fought so hard to establish and preserve. And it all stems from just having a different point of view on things, and I really like how this comic really frames things in a different way. Even in the writing itself, the idea of seeing what you already thought about honesty and integrity and seeing it from a different light. Or there's a really great, powerful quote, "It's not what you fight, but what you fight for." That just adds that level of depth to understanding what these mice are actually doing in this story. Now, in terms of the story itself, it spans across 6 different chapters. At the beginning of the story, they come across this mouse grain peddler who they are trying to kind of interrogate, but then all of a sudden, all of their plans go out the window, and this peddler is unfortunately eliminated. And they do discover that this peddler that they tried to save actually was not working with them, but working against them. And I bring news of the rebellion. Oh yeah? I can't tell you about it here though. I feel like I'm being watched. This is where the mystery of what is going on within the Mouse Guard that becomes uncovered. Did you say there was a traitor in our midst? Where? There. And as the chapters progress, the characters then kind of go on a journey, and there's kind of 2 storylines that are going at the same time. One with the 3 mice who kind of go to Barkstone, and I love how all the different locations in Mouse Guard have these funny naturistic names. So you've got like Barkstone, Blackrock, Showbarrow, Lockhaven, and Lockhaven is kind of like the capital city or the main castle where Gwendolen resides. And I just think it's just such a nice, beautiful touch when you can name places that really tap into who the characters are, as well as the fact that they are mice, and just evoking that sense of world building is really cool. There are some really great themes that come through the book, in particular the idea of the black axe. When these three mice kind of go along the trail and try to uncover what's going on, they discover that the black axe is something that is centered around this rebellion. And the black axe is both a physical idea, a mouse or humanistic idea, as well as something that's symbolic to what the mice all believe in. And it almost is like an infection within the Mouse Guard itself, and how the three mice uncover the black axe and understand and come to grips with what it is becomes part of their journey, and becomes the main storyline in the book. The black axe is a weapon that one of the mice have been able to, that was forged a long time ago, and there's a really good tale in the book that kind of explains where the black axe comes from. The black axe is also a character that is a hero who's kind of taken a rest from his duties and just forgotten his ways, and just needed someone to come along and pick him up and thrust him back into the spotlight again. And then you've got this group of rebellious mice who are called the Axe, who are trying to overthrow Gwendolen and trying to fracture and reshape what the Mouse Guard really believes in. And that's where the crux of this story comes through. I mean, you do get to see some really cool creatures along the way, like giant crabs and giant snakes, and all of those elements come together in such a beautiful way to create a really great interwoven story. The black axe was a part of me that was a long time ago. I don't know if I could face it anymore. It brings back too many horrible memories. If you choose to use the black axe, you must accept the responsibility, the burden that it brings. So what I really love, and I think I want to celebrate about this first Mouse Guard book, is the fact that it really dabbles into its lore really well. Every now and then you can see that through the graphic images, and the images are drawn superbly well. It kind of has this thick black ink line outline with really bold colors, and in some of the chapters they've really gone over the top with certain tones where they've used red to really accentuate, and I've just turned the background red, to really accentuate the conflict between these two parties and their values and their differences. And that conflict ends up in this physical battle that happens between the two sides. I really like how the book is all about testing what you know about integrity and your courage and that sense of heroism. I also think that the story didn't really narrow in on one particular character, but rather it gave us little different points of view from all the different characters and their experiences, and kind of shone a light on different elements about those characters that highlighted their contribution to how the story progressed. So in one part of the book we hear from Gwendolen, and in one part of the book we see Liam doing something really cool, and then we see Saxon, being brave and causing a distraction. Those little highlighted moments just really add a lot of sprinkled flavor to the book. And I think that's an interesting way to approach a story where there's a lot of characters, where you have to kind of give each character their chance to shine. And I think this book did it in that way. However, on the flip side, I found that I didn't really know each character incredibly well. I didn't know their history or where they came from. It's kind of like, here are the three characters, here's what they're doing, this is how they behave, this is how they respond, but I didn't really kind of gain a sense of where these three characters actually came from in this first book. And I think that's something that is explored in later books. Rain, it keeps on falling. Definitely sums up my mood about this story. I did like the themes in this book, the idea of turning against your own kind and what sort of drives you to turn against your own people. And I think that's a really interesting moral dilemma in itself. We're always shown that we do need to get along with everybody, but we often find that we don't share similar opinions or similar values. And this book kind of highlights that and magnifies it for the characters, that what if you are the same species, but you don't have the same opinions. How do you deal with it? How do you navigate those really difficult issues and differences? And I love how this book really explored that. There's one thing I will highlight as a criticism of this first book is that the story plot does feel very familiar. It doesn't really venture into anywhere new. I mean, it is a story about uncovering a traitor and who the traitor is and understanding why they're rebelling. But that storyline has been done quite a lot before, and it feels like this book is a very much play by numbers in terms of story plot. However, that play by numbers does not detract this from being an enjoyable read, and I think this read itself was so good. And in fact, I've read it quite a few times, and the more I've read it, the more I've seen some of the nuances and really cool story moments really come to life for me. So in considering my final verdict, I absolutely love Mouseguard, and there is no doubt in my mind that if they produced a whole lot more of these books, I would definitely get them and read them. I absolutely love the world, and Mouseguard Fall 1152 is a great entry point into that world, and being able to explore these character storylines. What really is accentuated by the book is the idea of highlighting strong, honest integrity and values, and there are some really powerful quotes that even I would share with other people just because they resonate and they mean so much when you talk about them. And I love that mythology of having a powerful philosophy and then underpinning a story and attaching your characters to that philosophy, and this book does that in spades. So I'd probably give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So thank you folks for joining me this far into the video, and if you really like this video, please consider giving me a subscribe and a like. It would mean the world to me. I love reviewing books, I love looking at stories, and I love talking about stories, and I hope that has come across with you and resonated with you. If you're intrigued about what Mouseguard is all about, I'm happy to have a conversation with you in the comment section below. Otherwise, this is Danny signing off, and I will see you next time, and I hope your next story is an enriching and adventurous one. See you later.